So now that we've covered how you might create new documents and new collections into our database using Mongoose, and we also in the last lesson looked at how you might validate new data that's being entered into the database. Now I want to cover the last parts of CRUD and briefly show you how you might update and delete data using Mongoose. If you remember previously, we added in that peach, but we forgot to add in a name for it. This was allowed to happen because we didn't have the validation in place yet. We didn't set the name field as required when this happened. Let's use this opportunity to learn about how you would update data, and let's give that document a name of peach. I'm going to comment out my fruit.save, and down here, just below the find, we're going to update our peach. So we're going to again tap into that fruits collection through the fruit model, and we're going to call the method update1. The reason I know how to do this is again because of the documentation. Inside the API documentation for all of our models, you can see there's find one, there's also update, update many, and update one. You can use all three of these depending on what you need, but the one that I've chosen is update one. And it has 3 required parameters and 1 optional parameter. What we have to specify is the condition to filter upon. So which document do you want to update, basically? And then the next one is, what are you going to update? And finally, it accepts a callback, which allows us to log any errors if there are any. Inside our code here, we've called fruit.update1, and now we're going to specify our first parameter, which is going to be the filter, or what it is that we want to update. In our case, I want to update the record that has a particular ID. And I can see that ID in my Mongo shell, and it's this string over here, which was generated automatically when we created this document. And that ID corresponds to the document that has the peach without a name. So if I copy that over and I paste it in here, then I now have my query. So this is the item that I want to update. It has an ID that is specific to it, and it's this. The next thing that I can add is what it is that I want to update about it. In this case, I'm going to update the name field, and I'm going to set it to peach. And finally, the third parameter is simply going to be a callback function, which will log any errors if there are any. So if error, then we'll log the error. But if there weren't any errors, then we'll just log successfully updated the document. Now let's close everything off and hit save, and let's go into our hyperterminal and run our node app.js again with that update. And you can see now it says successfully updated the document. And if we go over to our Mongo shell and we look at all the fruits inside our fruit database, you can see that we don't have any extra documents. We've still only got 5, but this last one now has the name field filled, and it now has the value of peach. So now if we run it again and it logs all of our fruits, you can see we now have apple, kiwi, orange, banana, and peach. All of our data is now updated and complete. Over here, you might see that the field peach got added in right at the end to this document. But the order doesn't actually matter because we can tap into every single property using the dot notation. So it'll search through this entire document and find the relevant piece of data for you just by writing that fruit.name. The final thing that we want to do is, what if we wanted to delete a particular record? Let's say I'm going to delete this peach after all. Well, then we could use the delete one method. I'm going to leave this as a challenge for you. Based off this documentation, I want you to delete the peach entry in our fruits collection. If you succeed, when I run in my Mongo shell the same fruits.find, I should no longer see this last record. Pause the video now and see if you can complete this challenge. They've actually very helpfully included an example for you to show you how you might call this delete one function. And it only has two parameters. One is the conditions. This is, again, what exactly do you want to delete? You need it to match with something, right? And then the second one is a callback. Again, this allows us to log any errors that occurred when we were deleting the document. Let's implement that in our code. So I'm going to comment out our update one, and just below it, I'm going to say fruit.delete1. And the first parameter is, of course, the condition. What do I want to delete? Well, I want to delete the document that has a name of Peach. You can also use the ID or anything else that's unique about it. But in this case, I know that I have a document that's called Peach. Next, I'm going to specify the callback function, which only has an error as a parameter. And again, I'm going to check if there was an error, I will log the error. But if there were no errors, then I'm going to log successfully deleted the document. Now let's go ahead and run this code in our hyperterminal and see what happens. So now we've got successfully deleted the document. There's a typo there from me. But when it loops through our data to find all of the documents, we no longer have a Peach being shown. And again, if I switch over to my Mongoose shell and run db.fruits.find, we now only have 4 entries, with that last one where the name matches Peach being deleted. The other function that we might want to use is the delete many, because sometimes you might want to just clear out a collection or delete a number of documents that match a particular condition. If you remember previously, when we were running our app.js, for a couple of times, we didn't actually comment out the person.save. And that means that every time we ran app.js, we created that same person, John, who's 37, got saved into our database many, many times. If you head over to your Mongo shell and you wrote show collections, you can see we have our fruits and our people. And if you say db.people.find to show us all the data in there, we have loads of Johns who are 37. As a challenge, I want you to delete all of the data in here where the name matches with John, and I want you to clear out this collection through the use of this delete many method. Pause the video and try to complete the challenge. This is the syntax that we need to follow. We're going to tap into a particular model and we're going to call the delete many method. And then we're going to pass in the required 2 parameters, which is the condition, which matches the documents we want to delete, and the callback to log any errors. Down here, let's comment out our delete one. And instead, let's now tap into the people's collection by typing person, which is the name of the model that is linked to the people's collection. Person.delete many, and then the first parameter is of course the condition. So we said that the name has to match John. And then the second parameter was just a callback with an error. And if there was an error, log the error, else log successfully deleted all the documents. Now let's run this code and clear out our collection. So successfully deleted all the documents. And now if we do dbpeople.find again, you can see it's completely empty. We've deleted all of these records where the name matches with John. To ensure that we only have one John, let's go ahead and save a single one of these. And now we should have a single John in our records. And now let's comment this out again before we start adding more Johns into our people's collection.